Hey everybody, welcome aboard. This is on the Homefront. I'm John Murphy. I'm very happy to share some time with you right here at WILI, AM 1400 and 95.3 FM. So we're doing live radio here on Wednesdays each week. Also, we're video tagged obviously for YouTube. WILI has a YouTube channel for all of its 5 o'clock shows, so you can catch us anytime on demand. Just go and search for WILI Radio. You'll get the YouTube channel for all of our shows. And I'm really happy we have a very arts-oriented show today. We're going to look at local live music with musician Evan Wood, who's been very active all around the region doing live music. We're going to have Quiet Corner Contra Dance back on the show. They're going to close out the show with some live music at the third part. And we're going to begin with my good friend from the Coventry Arts Guild. That's Richard White is the president. Every month or so he comes by with an update on all their good activities. Welcome back. Good to have you in the studio.
Good to be back. Thank you for the repeated invitations. It's good.
Well, there's so many good things once in a while. You know, some people have 1 or 2 things a year. Other people, more frequent.
We are working on it.
You bet. And the reason why we have Richard here is a very big annual event that's been a year in preparation. It's their Arts on Main, where the whole downtown area is transformed. Kind of like we do here with Third Thursday, but a different way. So, Richard, congratulations on everybody to pull this off.
Well, thank you so much. It's a big deal. It's the 6th annual. We had to skip 2 years for COVID, but
that's right.
We've done 6. This is our 6th year. All up and down Main Street. We've got music. We got dance. We got poetry and puppetry, and you name it. Food trucks, art exhibitions, and lots of things for big kids and little kids. It's a great event, and we're looking forward to another fine outing this Saturday, September 16th.
You know, something you mentioned before, this is like 10 years in the works to take an area that had a very difficult curve right in the middle of town with all the other businesses, transforming walking spaces. So that took so long for a town to prepare for just an easy event now.
Well, it's it's a tribute to our just recently retired town manager, John Elsesser, who was a wizard at putting together patches of little grants to make things happen.
Yeah.
The hall that we used, Millbrook Place, when I came to Coventry 20 years ago, it was a stone wall with sky, no roof. And it's now a finished, air-conditioned community venue for receptions, and we use it for music and poetry and our art exhibitions. And it's been a really concerted town effort. Our town council has been very supportive.
Right.
It's a good place to be in the arts, and we continue to grow. So this is our big event, and we're featuring our poetry reading, Poets Corner. Antoinette Brim Bell, who is the Connecticut's state poet laureate, will be reading, along with Nadia Sims, who's a writer from Manchester, and there'll be an open mic part of the event for some other poets to come in and give us their story and their poetry, and that's all at Millbrook Place. In addition to a members' art exhibition, we have about 40 pieces of art, paintings, drawings, and so forth from our members. But all the way down the street, there's a children's art extravaganza where the kids go out and they paint. They have these cardboard animals that they've constructed, and the kids go paint the animals, and then there's masks that they can paint. There's sidewalk chalk that they can participate in. We have 17 arts and craft vendors on a parking lot who'll be selling their arts and crafts, all art and craft related. Puppet shows, only a half hour from 12:30 on, I think, at the library, Booth and Dimmick Library front steps. So there's a little bit of everything, and we have a student art exhibition and a courtyard at the First Church where there are food trucks, and 3 different bands will play through the course of the afternoon, 11 a.m. to 3 p.m.
Right.
The transportation is provided by a bus shuttle. There'll be parking. Best parking is at Patriots Park, where the lake is and the beach, and there's a shuttle bus that'll take visitors back and forth from Patriots Park to the center of Main Street, and there'll also be, on the hour, there'll be shuttle service from wherever you are at the show or at the parking lot to
Right.
the David Hayes Sculpture Field. You can take an hour tour of that and come back on
We've
the bus.
talked about that before,
Yep.
because it's extensive, it's huge,
Oh,
and it's kind of a hidden treasure.
35 or 57 acres, I think is what it is, and it's
Yeah.
covered with the legacy of the late David Hayes sculptor, steel sculptures and all manner of
Yeah.
wild stuff.
But one thing to keep in mind, don't fill the car up with people and drive into downtown. Get the shuttle, because they're going to organize all the chaos to keep it safe for everybody to walk around and not have to worry.
Yeah.
And it's at Patriots Park, 124 Lake Street. If you don't know where it is, 124 Lake Street is the address. And if there is a rain problem at all, like it was today, there's some horrific rain this afternoon. I guess Coventry High is a backup location for at least some of this stuff, right?
We had a good meeting on that the other day about
I bet.
the eventuality. Some of the indoor activities will stay on Main Street,
Right.
but the outdoor activities will move to the high school.
Yeah.
And we've never had to do it before, and we hope we don't have to do it again.
Right, so you can go to the website too, Coventry Arts Guild. You'll get the whole idea of all the stuff, and there are other activities too. But I wish you a great weekend with a lot of good weather. It's a big event for people in town. Also, you wanted to mention too, I've had other guests on. A lot of people are getting into speaking and poetry and creative presentation. And the Poets Corner series goes on throughout the whole season, not just on the Arts on Main. Do you want to mention how that works?
Poets Corner will be on the second Friday of each month, October, November, and December. And that's an open mic event where writers and poets can come in and take a few minutes to read their material. We had similar series in the spring of 3 rounds of this, and we had great response, and a number of people came back over and over again. It's well subscribed. And another literary event that we're going to do is a 6-week playwriting workshop. It's going to be presented by Sarah Moon, who's the artist writer in residence at EC Chap up in Willimantic. So she'll be there September 27th and 6 or 5 Wednesdays after that, for a total of 6 weeks playwriting workshop, and that's going to be at the Booth and Dimmick Library, which has just reopened, and it's a stunning renovation that they've done. They've solved a lot of they had water drainage problems in the basement. And
Oh, yeah.
they've expanded the square footage, and there's a dedicated space for a community room. It's just a really nice. A nice project. Another hats off to John Elsesser, I should say.
Well, it's kind of like the Shabu stage, because they built it for certain large events, but then anybody else can use it.
Yeah.
It's there all year, right?
Yeah,
That's
well,
the
the
beauty of it.
library is a coming thing now that it's
Yeah.
it's up to the minute, up to date. Good stuff is going to begin happening there, and we're going to continue our relationship. This playwriting workshop
Yeah.
is our first major outing, but we've done some other things with the library in the past. But we're going to go full bore on making things happen in collaboration with the Booth and Dimmick Library.
Now, one thing that we have for all the arts organizations that come to visit is that they all have their own internal structure, and they have a board, and they have turnover. People leave, people finish terms, new people are coming in, and that volunteer energy makes all this stuff happen, right? I mean, nobody's going to get a high-paid CEO here, but they're all adding their contribution to make it work, like Richard. Can you talk about some of the things that your board members do and what the needs are?
We have officers who handle the principal activities. We have a secretary who does a newsletter and all kinds of emailings. Our treasurer has given us, really top quality bookkeeping that allows us to apply for grants and keep track of the money
Right,
in a responsible way. It's all part of doing business in a really structured and a responsible way. So we've gotten funding from Connecticut Humanities 2 years, and we have another grant that we're still working on now and next year from the town of Coventry. So doing business professionally is the way to impress people and then impress them with your results. So we have about 12 people on the board. Some are more active than others. We would love to put a couple of more people who would like to do work, project work, propose projects. maybe in an area that we may not be covering so well. There's hundreds of different ways that you can do arts programming. So if any of your listeners are interested or have friends or family who are interested, go to our website, which is coventryartsguild.org. Look over the shape of the guild, and there's also an extensive write-up about our festival on Saturday. And send us an email, info@coventryartsguild.com, and tell us what your interests are. And we would love to have you sit in on our monthly business meetings, get acquainted with a great group of people, and talented. And most of them are artists, and they're giving some of their valuable time to making it, spreading the wealth and the culture among really on the region. So.
Yeah, when you share your work collectively, it brings lots of benefits beyond just doing the good work. And these boards live and die on volunteer energy to bring in ideas and give continuity year to year to maintain projects moving forward. That's a really hard thing to do sometimes.
Well, we're doing it, and we're going to keep doing it. That's our plan.
Okay, well, we've had Richard White with us today in the program from the Coventry Arts Guild. CoventryArtsGuild.org is the website to follow up on all their events throughout the year. We'll have Richard back maybe around Thanksgiving to talk about wintertime end-of-year events. So I wish you a great season, especially this coming weekend, Richard.
Thank you so much. So good to be here, and we always appreciate the invitation to come back.
You bet. All righty, well, we're going to take a break now for a few minutes, a couple of messages, and we'll be right back. Don't go away. Okay, we're back on the Homefront Live here. John Murphy, very happy to be with you, and we're sharing time in the studio now with musician Evan Wood, who is he has finished some education at Eastern in the music program. He's very active in our region as a musician in his own bands and other people's bands. And as you know, periodically we kind of look at the live music culture. Different venues will come on. We've had the Stomping Ground, we've had the Packing House, other venues. And so Evan is covering the whole area, and he's also getting into New York City as well. So I thought it would be nice to have Evan here to talk about the individual and how people are making a go at today, live music, and how they're making the economics work and how they're finding audiences. So thanks for coming by today. I know it's been a lot of work. We've talked a few times over the years. It's nice to see you still out there banging it.
Yeah. Thanks for having me, John.
You bet.
Excited to be here.
You bet. So let's start out right away with some business. He has some events coming up in the near future. We'll talk about ways to see Evan, and then we'll talk more about how things are planned out. So.
Yes. So a few local events in Connecticut coming up that I'd like to come on here and promote. But for the locals in Willimantic this Sunday, the 17th, I believe, is this Sunday. I have the final brunch at Grounded Coffee, and that runs from 11 a.m. to 1 p.m. And it's actually going to be a really fun one. I'm going to be playing drums while DJing, while a bass player plays as well. So it's going to be interesting. We're doing some experimentation.
Kind of multi-dimensional.
Yes, it'll be really interesting.
Yeah.
And obviously, Ground is a wonderful spot. They've been really welcoming to all of my musical ideas, and they really support the community. I really appreciate them.
Yeah, I know in the past you've also done some nice programming with Andy at
Stone Row, yeah.
Exactly, in their outdoor series. That's very nice as well.
Yes.
So there is a local audience.
Definitely.
Now, you're going to be in Hartford at Black Eyed Sally's. That's a really famous venue. How'd you get in there? That's a good one.
Yeah, so this took quite a bit of work, I would say, to get booked there. But that's going to be my my hip hop band with some locals, some UConn students, and Eastern students. That's going to be a really exciting show. That's this Friday. We start at 8, and I think what it took to build up to playing that venue was really being a part of the Hartford jazz scene and working in there, and they have a jam session every Wednesday, so being a part of that, showing up,
right,
and also things like growing our audience at UConn. We won the Battle of the Bands at UConn last.
In the spring?
In the spring, yeah, last spring. And
congratulations.
Thank you.
Excellent.
That was really, really good for our growth as well. And the band's name is Static. I think just pushing and people seeing that we're active, keeping a well-run social media page, keeping lots of content flowing on YouTube, on Instagram, Facebook, doing smaller shows in more obscure areas, and it all kind of builds up into being able to play at a venue like Black Eyed Sally's, which we're very, very excited to be performing there.
And you also have arranged to break through the walls to get into the New York scene, which is wide and diverse, large and small. So how does someone starting out in the area find their way into the Big Apple?
I think New York City is a little scary at first, but really you got to realize it's the same. It's venues that are trying to book music that people are going to enjoy, and if you can provide that, the money might not be the reason you go out there to do that, but
Yeah.
it's an exciting process, and I think it's worth it for every musician to try and do that, to try and just see what it's like, see how audiences in New York City are going to respond to the music, because I know how they respond here,
Yeah.
but in a place filled with so many people, who knows how it's going to go.
Right. Well, that's part of the fun too, is that it's like an improvisation of another kind.
Definitely, and it's exciting. Maybe I can play with musicians from New York instead of calling musicians from Connecticut. So it's almost a networking game as well for me to go out there.
Yeah, yeah. So this is another example of folks take a music education and they invest in it, and some go into actual education and they teach it. Some go into performance. Some do both, of course. Some players are great teachers. But could you talk a bit about how your musical education at Eastern helped you to find your way, and what kind of things did you learn there that helped you to be more in control of your choices, that kind of stuff?
To be honest, I think the biggest thing I've gotten from school, I'm a senior at Eastern right now. This is
Right.
my last semester.
That's right.
And I think the biggest thing that I've come across is just being around young, excited college students. It brings up opportunities. So other musicians that I've met that are throwing shows, say at Shabu Stage, and then I meet the rapper that's now in my band, things like that. Really just being a part of the community and being around like-minded people, I think has really done well for my career. And I think I've learned a lot from, I have a mentor named Matt Bronson. He's an adjunct percussion teacher at Eastern, and he's really helped me out a lot with my branding, marketing, even just creating video content, things like that, and just been a really good resource of helping me get work to financially sustain myself in an industry as tough as music.
Yeah, the new technology, it's a fragile thing. Even though it's delicate and beautiful, it's still fragile. EvanWoodLive.com is a website. Without losing us in technicalities, how are you using the web to fulfill your work?
So recently, I've been really trying to maintain a very active social media presence, and I think, especially at someone my age, it's impossible not to be on the internet. And at the same time, I can really use this as a way to help me. So it's almost, I see it as my resume. My Instagram page, my website, it's all a resume of where I'm playing, who I'm playing with, the kind of music I'm playing, how often I'm playing, even as much as what am I wearing, what. I mean, I don't think anything's out of the picture for me.
Yeah.
Maybe if I post a bunch of pictures where I'm wearing cool clothes, a modeling company will hit me up. There's no, it's just a resume. Putting out a resume of myself. And then there's also the more numerical, I guess, way to think about it, where if he has this many followers, maybe he can bring this many people to our venue. But
well, some of that stuff, maybe if you just show growth, it's not the number, but there's a trend. Yeah, the audience is growing over a year, but not so much how huge it is, because it's a different stage of development.
I think you're right. I think it's very much about the activity of the page and the quality of the content on the page rather than the actual number, because I don't think the number always correlates with the number of physical people that you can reach.
Right. It's just a measure,
Definitely.
And, when you're working in all kinds of venues, I wonder, what's your sense of how the venues are making out? After COVID, most of them shut down. They're still struggling. But, when you go to these different places, what's your sense of their stability and how well they're doing with all their different acts?
I would say it's definitely tough. I think the restaurants and the venues are struggling to pay the bands what they would like to pay the bands, and the bands are struggling to bring the people in that will get the restaurant, the business, to kind of pay for that investment of the band.
Make it work.
But it's interesting too, because I think some venues want the band but don't want to invest in the band, don't want to work with the band. But then there's other venues that want to invest in the band and want to invest in the people that are in the band and really care about their employees, and those are the places that really do well. I think a really good example of that is the place I play every Tuesday in Mystic, Connecticut, and that's called the Port of Call. That's every Tuesday, 7 to 10. And that's a restaurant that really cares about their staff. They really care about the customer, the band, and you know, even financially, I'm not walking out of there with a huge paycheck, but I feel appreciated, and I think the audience appreciates the band. And really, if a venue can, I think if a venue can appreciate their staff, the staff will appreciate the customer, and the customer will appreciate the band, and it creates a very positive environment.
It's a chemistry. It gets to be tangible, and that's why people would repeat.
Definitely.
Yeah.
But everybody has to be willing to work with everyone to really make it work.
Yeah. Well, Evan, I certainly wish you a great season ahead, and we'll try to get you back in the wintertime. We've had you on before about Static, and try to get some recordings of Static.
Definitely.
It'd be great for people to hear the fusion of jazz and hip hop and the words together. It makes a very interesting energy.
Yeah, definitely. I'd also like to say while I'm here, evanwoodlive.com, there's a mailing list where every week you will get a list of all the shows happening. So check that out. Thank you, John. It's been really good.
Good to see you. So we'll have you back again, and I wish you a good season, okay?
Thanks, John.
Okay. Alrighty. Well, we're going to keep in the art mode and get into the quiet corner contra dance. But right now we're going to hit some music. The Hills of My Wyndham, an old classic. Enjoy 2.5 minutes. We'll be right back. Alrighty. We're back on the program here on the Homefront. Very happy to have you with us now for special guests. This is a group that I've been talking about for a long time on the radio about their monthly gatherings, and now I have them in the house. It's really nice to look at the Quiet Corner Contra Dance Group. They meet in Coventry. We have some of the people that are deeply involved to talk about their events, how often they meet, and the whole idea of dance and this style of unique dance. And we have a fiddler in the house who's going to make a little noise. So thanks for bringing your instrument, Dennis. Okay, we have Dennis Knowlton, and next to Dennis is his wife, Joyce. And also we have Ruth Tracy in the house. So maybe you could start out with your events coming up in your schedule, and then we'll talk about the group and a little bit of history.
Okay.
Joyce?
Well, I thought I might start with a question we get all the time. What is contra dancing?
Indeed.
And contra dancing it's a social dance. You can attend with or without a partner. Some of the steps in contra dancing are the same ones you would use in square dancing.
Mm-hmm.
The dancers form couples. The couples make two couple squares, and then they progress up and down the lines to the music. There's a caller that teaches you the steps before the music starts, and then as he calls during the dance, so that you get familiar with the sequence of the steps.
That's right.
And then it gets easier as you go along.
Yeah. So how many people are involved overall, if you had to average it out? Because they meet in the Patriots Park Lodge, correct?
Correct.
I've been there before. It's a nice space. So how do you all fit together in there?
Well, we usually have about 30 people who dance. We dance on the first Friday of every month. And it's at Patriots Park Lodge,
Mm-hmm.
which is on Lake Street, 172 Lake Street. We have a series of dances coming up, and these people come from all over. Some of them are from Mystic, some of them are from Hartford,
Wow.
from as far Worcester sometimes. I mean, we get a variety of people who travel.
So they're kind of like cousins coming around, right?
Yeah, there's a whole group of people that contra dance, groupies. Yes. So we kind of have a really nice lineup. We have live music every single dance, and we have a different caller every single dance. Coming up on October 1st, we have Don Heinold, who is the caller, and the Wild Notes. Wild Notes is made up of 3 musicians. We have a fiddler, we have guitar and accordion, is that? Yeah, an accordion. And the reason I have to ask is because the people in Wild Notes also play in other bands, and so sometimes it's hard to keep up with all those people. And for instance, on November 3rd, Don Vino is calling, and he comes from New Hampshire, right, or Vermont, and we have Boom Chicks calling or playing, and Boom Chicks has some people from Wild Notes and some other people. So
Wow.
it's a fun band, Boom Chicks.
Yes.
So let me ask you this now. How long have you been with the group, and how long has the group been around keeping this kind of art form alive and well?
Well, this group started in Brooklyn, Connecticut in the middle 1900s, 1990s. Let's get there. Yeah, right.
I was about to say you look very well.
Yeah, well.
1970s.
Yes.
Okay.
1990s.
1990s.
By a lady who was taking a class in self-development or something and had to do a project. So this was her project. She started the dance. She got 120 people to come to the first dance at the Brooklyn Grange. And Wild Asparagus was the band that played at that dance. Wild Asparagus is still playing contra dances.
They're a very famous band, yes.
Yes. And the fiddler in that band is Ruth's sister.
Ah.
Yeah. It's all in
the family.
We're all cousins.
All right. We went on to move to the Chaplain Grange when the Brooklyn Grange closed,
Right.
and we danced there for a while. And it was moved to the Hampton Congregational Church so we were there for quite a few years.
Right.
And then the people that were running it then decided that maybe if we moved closer to Yukon, we might get more people dancing. So we moved to the Stores Congregational Church. But all those extra people didn't happen.
It didn't work up there on 195, eh?
Right. It didn't
City
work.
on the hill, kind of. Yeah.
Right.
Yes. Yeah.
So in 2016, we moved to Patriots Park Lodge, and we are still there.
So Dennis, how long have you been playing music now?
About 14 years.
And do you play every month? Do you play in bands? In terms of the way you enjoy your music, how often do you get to play?
I play with the Quiet Corner Fiddlers, which played at the church farm. It was
For the
the
Babcock Library.
Babcock Library fundraiser. That was last Saturday.
Okay.
And I get together every 2 to 3 times a week, a month. 2 to 3 times a month
Right.
with various groups.
We know the connection to the Granges because they're disappearing. Actually, the Granges
they
are
are.
really, and it's a piece of lost history. Like that was our food supply. That's how we
Yeah.
survived, plus horses. But well, yeah. But I just wonder that the history of the roots of this, is that part of what draws people besides the music and the dance? It's the sense of history that this goes way back.
The
Or am
history-
I being romantic about it?
No, actually, the history goes way back. And the dance form came from English and Scottish country dance. Those are two different kinds of country dance, and it kind of melded when it came to the United States. And also French dance styles figured in there. So lots of times things happen in England, and then they go to France, and then they come back again, and they're a little bit different, because the English want to be like the French.
Sure. On a good day.
On a good day, right. So it is a social dance form. And it is an American folk dance. So there is traditional music that is played. The fiddle is the most traditional instrument, but also accordion and pipes and guitar, piano.
And way back, dulcimers were among the first instruments.
Oh,
Right.
yes.
What a wonderful sound too.
And mandolin, banjo, all of those are used. And it depends on the band what kind of a mix you get.
Do we have some area bands that travel elsewhere, and so they also get around the circuit?
Oh, yes.
Want to mention any particular
Some
ones?
of the
Give them a-
bands coming up,
Yeah.
I told you, Boom Chicks. Dogtown comes from northern Massachusetts. Free Raisins. Where do they come from? I don't
No
know,
idea.
but they're an amazing band. Free Raisins. That's all I have listed here.
Okay.
There's many more coming up. And First Time String Band.
Sally Rogers.
Oh, fantastic. Is Howie in that as well? Howie
Yes.
Burns?
Howie,
Oh,
yeah.
awesome.
And Jeff.
That's a
Yeah.
great band.
That's a big group.
So speaking of first timers, how do you get people who get there and they're like anybody who's new, they're unsure, and you're smiling already at that, right? So how do you get people to like just get into it when they might not know the orchestrations? They see it, but they're not comfortable with it. How do you get them into it?
About 15 minutes before the music starts, the caller usually calls everybody, especially the new people, but everybody usually goes up to help,
Yeah.
into a circle on the floor, and he teaches the basic steps to everybody. It's a review for some people and
Mhm.
learning for others. And then the first dance, then he has everybody line up in contra dance lines, and he teaches. The first dance is usually a very simple dance. He's taught most of the steps, so they practice it before the music starts, and then the music goes on and they dance.
Yeah.
And the people that know how will help the people
Oh,
that
sure.
don't know
It's
how
all for fun, yeah.
move along. Yeah.
And what kind of mix of folks do you have? You know, like when you look around the room, it must be quite a mix.
It is quite a mix. Most of the dances I see, there's older people like myself and teenagers and anything in between. Even adults carrying their babies on their hip while they dance. So it's a big mix of people. The teenagers is happening more and more
Really?
at dances, which is it's wonderful to see that young people coming into the dance. It also changes the energy.
Oh, I can imagine. Do you know what they describe that makes it fun for them? Do they ever describe what it is that says, I'm here?
I don't know. One of the things for me,
Yeah.
and I see it in the young people, is they can go to a dance and not come with a partner. You can go to a dance by yourself,
Right.
and you get a partner.
Right. Doesn't
And
matter.
every dance you change partners, so you get to know everybody in the dance, which is great.
Yeah. And are there any rules? This is probably a corny question. Are there any rules about shoes to protect the floor? Does that matter? You're laughing right away, but I had to ask. Some places they worry about the floor.
Some places they do. People, you wear special dance shoes that you don't wear out in the street.
That's right.
We haven't had that rule at our dance.
But we do ask them to bring or wear soft-soled shoes,
Right.
so that not to mark up the floor,
Yeah.
and to wear layered clothing because it gets pretty warm once you really start dancing.
Sure it does. Yeah. Even in the wintertime it gets warm. Yeah.
Oh yes.
Yes.
And how do you make it all work? Do people make a contribution that day? How do you take care of your cost to make sure the musicians cover their cost? So how does it work out that way?
We have a charge to get in. Right now it's $13 for adults and $6 for students.
Okay. So in Dennis, I see a bow that seems lonely over there. Would you like to share? We have a few minutes here, and I know Joyce mentioned that you might play. Have a particular song or a riff in mind?
Well, one of the tunes you might hear is Bonaparte's Crossing the Rhine. We have danced
Wow.
professionals playing that sounds like classical music to me, and modern music and old time stuff, and it's a huge variety of music you can dance to, once you got the beat.
Right, that's like anything to be. Well, you know, there's a new movie coming out this year from Ridley Scott about Napoleon. So I think that's a very timely selection. Thank you.
They typically have, they'll run through three tunes and they'll play them over and over, then they'll go to the next tune.
So you get into the groove of the dance for the song, right? That kind of thing, yeah. Now, one thing I like to ask musicians when they come in the studio is, you play the fiddle, but out of all the instruments you could have picked to make the noise, what made you pick those kinds of instruments? Just out of curiosity.
When I was a little kid, I'd hear somebody with a violin on the TV or whatever, and I thought, wow, that's awesome.
Huh.
So
That was it.
about 14 years ago, I I bought one on a whim, and the rest is history.
Yeah. That's an example. So many people say, you know, when you're a kid, those early things are the triggers. If you're lucky enough to find them, it can be a lifelong connection. Yeah. Well, I want to
Joyce
thank
is
you.
also a musician.
Oh, really? You didn't mention that. You're very low key, Joyce.
I don't play at contra dances,
Okay.
so.
Well, what do you play?
I play mostly the hammered dulcimer. I do play the lap dulcimer also, but, and there is one band that does play, have a hammered dulcimer in it.
Are they in the area? Do they play sometimes?
Yes, they do.
Oh, we should have you folks on sometime to talk about that, because we do a lot of stuff here with local artists or local venues that are trying to keep live music alive. People are coming out of the caves. COVID, you know, we're having a spike in COVID. People are a little concerned, but we want to keep the music coming back and people coming out. Yeah.
It's always fun to play out for 4 people.
Now, before we go, is there a website or anywhere people can stay in touch with you? I see one is at HC Dance.
Yes.
That's the one? Okay, so I just want to make sure before.
hcddance.org, yes.
Okay, so that's one way to stay in touch.
And that's an umbrella that
Oh,
will
yeah.
mention lots of dances in the Hartford area,
Okay,
Weathersfield, Quiet Corner,
good.
all over.
So it's probably Hartford Contra Dance, right?
Yes.
hcdance.org, hcdance.org. And these folks get together the first Friday of each month at Patriots Park Lodge, 172 Lake Street, and you start at 7:30, I assume?
Yes.
Right.
yes.
Okay,
With an instructional lesson at 7:15.
there you go. Go early. Well,
Right.
thank you very much for sharing this and for the stuff
Thank
you're
you.
doing to keep the community, you know, connected to our great culture, keeping it all alive and all of its assets.
Thanks.
Okay, thank you.
It was fun to be here.
You bet. Okay, so what we're going to do, I guess, is end the show a little early today. We covered all the bases. If you want to get involved in the show, just send me an email. It's john@humanartsmedia.com, and we can arrange to get your announcements on. You can come in the studio if you need more time. All of our shows end up on YouTube. You can get a link to share your story with your network. So John Murphy here with Matt Rupar behind the scenes. Thank you very much for sharing some of your time with us. I'm going to see you next week.